Yo, Uncle Leroy in the building, bro.
What's going on?
Chilling. Thank you so much for coming here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So, I'm like a big believer that in the world that we live in now, we live in a world of, I'm not gonna say infinite, but very high percentage of leverage with things like phones and the internet. You post something, and then one moment to the next, you could really make a significant change either in your life and the life of other people with your phone and with things that we use every day, like Instagram. And that's something that when I like seeing everything you did, you go like, it's really bugged out because there's a thing that's like one person can't make a difference, or like 2 or 3 or maybe even 5 people can't make a difference. Like you always hear that, but you legitimately raised, what was it, like close to or over 300K?
It was, I think $250,000.
Dude, what?
Yeah.
I thought it was 300K.
No, like just a quarter shy of like $1 million, something like that. I don't really remember the final figure. Especially because the last day we were just all so overwhelmed, but we were like we were pretty high up there.
Yeah, so like the things that I noticed is that one, essentially this all the way that you publicized it was just through Instagram, right?
Essentially, like, I mean, when it all started, we were myself and because there's other people behind it, so we were in the park and we were just kind of like figuring out like how to get involved and doing something substantial and something just like super cohesive and like just like raw. And then I was like, we should just sell clothes. And my friend Sachiko, she's a stylist, so she has a bunch of shit. And my friend Perry, who works at Palace, he has just a bunch of gear accumulated, and myself as well, because I work at Supreme, so I get clothes all the time. So I was like, why don't we just like do like a little fucking flea market? And Sachiko just followed up, and like she was like, are we gonna do this? And then I was like, yeah. And then as I was like responding to her, I was like, damn, like I should make a fucking, like, I was thinking like those old like like Sunday, like this Sunday, come on. Like, I was like, we got to do a commercial. Like, we have to do a commercial. So we did that. But then this is like, in the summer, it was like the summer. So people were out and kind of like living in Greenpoint at the time. Well, I was living in Greenpoint at the time, but running into people and just word of mouth. And everyone was just like super receptive. And people were like, what can I do to help? So that's how I had like tables set up from Polly Coots at Ready Set, and then like found vendors literally just like in McCarran Park like 2 days before, and they're like, I'm down, like what time, like and then the day of, all these people just showed up and just brought so much stuff, and we were like, holy shit. Like Leo Baker, they showed up and they gave us like 20 pairs of Nikes. It was insane, and we were like, whoa. And then like Nick Stain, I used to live around the corner from Nick Stain, so Nick just showed up with like a duffel bag of shit, and Dom showed up with like people just started showing up with just so much stuff, and we were just like, let's just sell this cheap, get rid of it and just raise the money and donate it. So
yeah, you guys talk about how you raised over 15K in 5 hours, and you expected to raise only around 500. How did that number, when I read that's crazy. How did that add up?
Fuck. I mean, to be honest, like, I remember just like thinking about what it was going to be like the night before, and I was like, how is this going to happen? Like, but then I was like, like the point is just the effort and the intention. It's not about how much money you raise. It's just about you being active and like putting your mind towards doing something that is like just substantial, because here we are waiting on stimulus checks, and here we are like protesting against police brutality, and this shit's still going on, and we can't rely on the big guys up top. We got to do it ourselves. So it was just like, it's not about the dollar amount, it's just about the action. But the dollar amount just ended up being so insane, because that was just the movement of community getting together, and everyone has, this is New York City, so everyone has good style, everyone has good stuff, and it's just really cool. Like, we're selling it for so cheap, and we're literally like, we had bags behind us, tables would be wiped out, we're throwing shit. We're like, it got to a point where we couldn't even like really like neatly display things, like especially me having a retail background, I'm like, oh, this looks like shit, but like it's a shirt, and someone's like, how much is that? And I'm like, I think we were selling shirts for like $25 or something like that. So I'm like, oh, $25, and it's like an old Supreme shirt, and it's like, you know, like in a time like this during like the shutdown and like the whole Black Lives Matter movement like merging together, it's like there's things that we have that we don't really need, and it's like just get rid of it and put it towards a good cause. So I think that all that was just there at the sales, and we're like putting it up, and Steven and I are looking at our phones, and I look to them and they're like, what do you have in your Venmo? And I'm like, I have like $5,000, you know? It's like, holy shit, like what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
so we were just juiced at the end of the day. We're like, how do we do this in 5 hours? It's crazy.
It's amazing, man, because you can take something that is seen as from the eyes of other people as super vain, like something like fashion, it's about looks, and you can use that as an avenue for something completely different that is substantial, that has an effect, like a ripple effect on the lives of people who are so, like some of the people who probably have benefited from the events that you did, they probably don't know what like Supreme is or what Palace is or like, or care, because there's like real life issues. So you're essentially taking this thing that has value in the eyes of people and just transferring that value into different kind of value to a totally different demographic of people. It's amazing, bro.
Yeah, thank you.
And then something that I think was really cool that it was on a sidewalk. So it's like an empowering thing that it's on a sidewalk, because it's all good, as opposed to if you need to rent a space for the day. If you like, imagine renting a space across the street from that park, how much it would have been. And because it's at a sidewalk, it's like, it literally becomes a thing where anybody can do it. If you have like a Wi-Fi connection and then you have a table, you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, New York City it's full of parks, and so much happens on the streets anyways. And that's what makes this place so cool, because you can stumble across something that's like spontaneous into your day, and it just comes off organic. And it's like, why not utilize such a good space that, you know, McGorrick has to offer. Parks are congregational places anyways. It's outdoors. That's like what we needed due to COVID regulations. And it just worked because you have a fence. When we like, it just looks so like, I'm from California, and like, you know, garage sales is like something that happens every weekend. So it was like something that just like had that aesthetic, and it was really cool. Like, you know, just those plastic racks like on the fence, and tables that are laid out, and like a blanket full of shoes, and you know, it was cool, you know.
They say that there's like this study that shows that after a certain dollar amount for an individual, extra money after that doesn't have any correlation to your happiness levels, like sustainable happiness levels, not like material pleasure of like, oh, I have this now, I'm happy for like the next 5 minutes. And what occurred to me is like the amount of money you raised for a lot of people, especially for a singular human being, it's like life-changing money. Yeah. It's like a lot of bread. It's like more than people making, like some people making like 3-4 years. Yeah. And then you just gave it all away. Did you think about that at all?
People were, I mean, I'm in a blessed situation. Like, you know, our employer was the people that I work for, they looked out for us during the whole shutdown. So like when we weren't even open, I was still getting paid. You know, I work for a company that really takes care of us. So the thing is like I was donating so much money in the beginning, like all these GoFundMe's popping up, you know, like places in New York that like needed the bread that like I was a frequent visitor of, or, you know, like it was my friend's business. I was already like on that kind of wavelength, you know. And people were, you know, some people did feel kind of like weird. It would get a little touchy if people would like make stuff for the sales, like in particular, and they were like, hey, can like I pay myself back? And I'm like, yeah, of course. Like no one's working here. Like we're not paying anyone for your time. If this is coming out of your own pocket, like you can pay yourself back for like production, and then like whatever you make in profit, we donate. So like, you know, like when I made Leroy Tees, like I did that. We've had a few people that have like participated in the sales, and like the money that they made might have just gone particular to like what they're doing, like in that given moment. Like Nueva Yorkeños, they were doing a back to school drive, so they needed money to get school supplies for like an elementary school, like in Bushwick or somewhere. So, you know, I was like, you guys have a table here, and like whatever you guys raise, we'll add it to our total because that's like what we made collectively. But you guys keep that, you know. So like, I mean, that's still donating it, and like,
Of course.
LES Community Fridge did the same thing. They wanted to get a new fridge because the fridge they had like just wasn't really that well. So I was like, yeah, you guys set up a little grill and you guys sell shit, and then, you know, boom, like. The homie Jay, who did like the Punjabi sweatshirts, like he paid himself back for production costs, and he kept the money and donated it to Punjabi as well that he made at our cell. So it was cool. Like people utilize the space they utilize the space in the cell to also keep money for themselves and then put it towards what they were doing. But yeah, like we just donated it. We're like, these people need it more than we do. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask, in terms of this particular charity, like you said, you raised $250,000. How did you? Well, the first question is, did you expect to raise that much money? And the second is, how did you know which charity in particular to donate it to? You know, because I think a stigma with charities is, you know, you ask an average person, they're like, oh, you know, yeah, they donate a little bit of, but a lot of it just goes in their pocket. You know,
Some of it
it's
goes
like,
to overhead, because there
Yeah.
are some charities that, this is a fact, there's some of them are simply more efficient than others, and some of them in their causes are questionable. So
yeah.
how did you go about choosing?
Yeah, how did you trust
So especially, that's a good question, because when the Beirut thing happened, we really had to like do our homework. And like my friend Dylan and I actually got on a call from a woman in Canada who was like like an essential worker out there, and we had to call to see how legitimate it was for us to send money to, because like with that whole thing, like the government was just so corrupt. Like anyone who like can withdraw money from an account can get seized. It was insane. As far as like picking the charities, I did like a little bit of research, but my friend Steven Ostrowski, they had a list already. Like they're just so their brain just thinks insane. Like if you think of like an octopus with its tentacles, like that's how their brain is, just like constantly moving. So every week they would just present like just a nonprofit to me, and then we would just discuss it, and I would look into it, and we were like, okay, this is legit. Or sometimes like things would just pop up, like the whole Elijah McClain thing. Like when that got a lot of like media attention, we were like, okay, like we got to find the right GoFundMe. But GoFundMe also kind of started cracking down. Like if you have multiple GoFundMes for like one thing, like it would get flagged and noticed. That's what happened when I set up a personal GoFundMe for my sister. Her best friend already set one up for her, and then GoFundMe contacted my sister and like, hey, you can't have two GoFundMes, because people were like taking advantage of the Black Lives Matter movement and setting up all these fake GoFundMes and like just pocketing the bread, which is like super whack. So my sister was like, hey, like you have to close this one. So it was like a thing, like I had to like withdraw the money that was in there and then put it in that one, and then we had to like redirect it and let everyone know. But yeah, like a lot of it was Steven came to aid a lot on that. And we were trying to like hit everything that we can, like, so like as far as donating to like these Black Lives Matter like nonprofits, we were also, you know, and we couldn't get to every single one, but like people would be like, hey, like you should do one for sex workers, or, you know, like Black trans housing, or, you know, trans housing. So like all these were like super legit, you know. So we were like, okay, like this, and it was really cool. Like once we donated to the door, and someone that like that participated at the door that used to go there after school was like, that's really cool, you guys donated to the door. Like they used to look out for me when I was in high school. Like, you know, it's a really good spot. So it was really good to hear shit like that, you know.
Yeah, I like it because it's you got all the money. It was via Venmo, right?
No, a lot of the money was like, it was via Venmo, or we started. So what we were doing at first was like the cash that we were doing, we were putting it in we were like, a few of us would just control the money. We didn't want it to get too scattered. So the cash that the cash that we were handling, it would be like $5,000 to like $6,000 cash. And we would deposit it in our bank and then disperse it into these nonprofits. And then we were like, we can't be doing this bi-weekly. Like, that's not good on our end. Like, you know, like it looks sketchy for us. So then that's when we had the idea of just taking the cash and just giving it to businesses in need. So we started doing that.
So it became cash only.
No. It was cash and Venmo. We would have cash and Venmo transactions. But at first what we were doing was we would like donate, because I would make all the vendors donate on site, or like donate when like within the next day. And then that's why I would screenshot all the donations, see where, you know, and then like with the cash, like the first 2-3 sales, we were like, dude, we got to stop putting this in our bank account. Like, you know, like if you're depositing $5,000 in your bank account, like bi-weekly, the IRS is probably going to be like, dude, what the fuck? So we were like, and then that's when like restaurants started kind of like being like, hey, we need help. And so we were like, this is the perfect opportunity. So we started walking up to like places that cater to that everyone's been a part, like everyone is like experienced in New York City, and we were just like, we're just gonna give you guys just cash. So we'd like walk up with a brown bag, you know, like with like, you know, $5,000, $2,000, $3,000, and we'd tell them what we're doing, and we'd show them like the things that we do on Instagram, and they're like, oh, that's really cool. And they're like, by the way, this is for you. And they're like, no way. And we're like, yeah, it's all
it's
you.
like 5Gs shows up at your doorstep.
Yeah.
That's really wild, man, because, you know, I'm like a big proponent of like the idea of living to somewhat close to your full potential, or just trying to maximize what you as a person can do with the time you have and the resources available. And I think that, like you said in some other talks, just like how you do this, essentially anybody could do this. You can be your own Uncle Leroy. And it's like this park, if you weren't doing this, would have been essentially empty those days, or like the phone is there for you to post at any given moment at your free will, at your disclosure.
Yeah.
And all these things, it's like the potential is fully there, and it's just sitting there. And the same goes for like a computer, or like any like of these social media things and these technological advances. We could use them to significantly, like, we always look at the downside of these things, like, oh, I spent so much time on this, or like, oh, I see a bunch of fried shit on this, instead of looking at like, yo, I could literally in a matter of X amount of days raise X amount of money using this exact same thing that you guys are all hating on.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like where you just decide to shift your mind to, you know. And luckily for me, I'm just surrounded by a lot of creatives. So, you know, those Leroy videos, they're edited by my good friend Andrew Price. You know, like we go out and we're like, all right, we're gonna film one, but we don't have like a set dialogue. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. Literally, those are all like on the spot. Like everything was just on the spot. But the whole editing and putting it together, that's Andrew being like the tech genius, and my friend Max as well, you know, being like the tech genius. And then it was just crazy posting that on Instagram, and then seeing like this one dude in Pittsburgh, I think, like made this video, and it was like, he like kind of has the same jacket that I would wear, and he's like, Uncle Leroy, what? Like Pittsburgh, and like did a sale in Pittsburgh and like tagged me, and I was like, dude, what the? Like we didn't expect it to, you know, like we didn't expect anything at all. Like we're just trying to do our thing, and but we didn't expect it. Like people started reaching out to me, and I'm sure people reached out to other vendors, and they're like, what can I do? Like people in Santa Barbara, they're like, hey, like I want to do something at a skate park in Santa Barbara. Oski hit me up, and he's like, hey, like I'm in Malmo, Sweden. Like I want to do a similar thing in Malmo. Like any advice, you know? Like someone in Chicago was like, yo, like I want to do this like in Chicago, like any kind of advice. Like people are like, yo, like in DC we're doing this. Like, so it was just cool to kind of like see how like my friends and I like literally planted a seed, and then the seed just flowered and grew, and people in other cities were just trying to do the same thing and donate bread as well. So it was really cool, like seeing that happen, you know?
You speak on one interview where how you say people have truly their heart in the right place. Is that what you mean by that? You see like these communities coming together, because it's easy to turn on the news and see that the world is on fire, it's burning up, you know, people are divided. But if you really do make an effort like you did, you do see people coming together.
Yeah, I think it's like, I think just everyone's just fed up. So, like I said, instead of like kind of waiting around with your hands out, like expecting handouts from other people. I think people just know that we can just do it ourselves. Like, this is a very DIY city, and a lot of people in New York, like, they just know how to finesse shit. So it's like, I think that in tune with like just being just so over everything going, like it just showed people, like the whole sale, the whole movement, it just really showed like people's true colors.
Absolutely.
Like, people were just showing up, like people would be there and they couldn't even find something and they would still donate bread.
Yeah, because essentially these people are feeling this every day of their lives, and
Yeah.
they're always waiting for a release, because we always get so caught up in our routines where we can't release, we can't like express our true words that we have built up, like
Yeah.
because as we walk around the streets, we're like a sponge, we absorb everything without
Yeah,
speaking,
yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? So like an event like that, people are just let it out, and so it's like emotional,
Yeah, no, it's cool. It was just really interesting because like hearing feedback from a lot of friends and new friends that attended the sale, they were just like, yo man, like this is amazing because not only am I here and I have access to like get something and I'm donating, like that was the cool thing about the sale, was like a lot of people are also kind of like unsure on like where to put their money, and we're like, okay, like here's the work for you, like we're showing you where it's going. Now you just come here, you come up on something that's like so cheap, like like chicks have ran up to me like, oh my god, I got like Versace pants for like $30, like real Versace or like Fendi pants, like like we were selling designer for the low. So it's like you come, you donate your money, you get something out of it, and it's going somewhere. And aside from that, a lot of people were like, yo, like this is really cool too, because not only is this like empowering in a way that like like we're seeing some kind of impact and movement happening, it also is just like, oh, it's just good to be here, because it's a lot of people, like they had no issues going there. It's very positive energy. Everyone was really happy. Like, we were cooped up. This is like New York City. Like everything's so small here. And like when the whole shutdown first hit, everyone was like going nuts, and like everyone was spent. Everyone was like losing their mind. And then like you just have these like reunions at this park, and there's like food and you can drink and you can buy something and you're donating, and like it was just, a lot of people were really hyped on that too. So it was cool.
Well, could you imagine if just like how you and your group of friends did this thing, if like every group of friends did this thing, like it would be insane. It would be crazy, because there would be so much. It would be like an explosion of positivity and change and shit like that. Yeah, man.
Yeah. I mean,
it's really bugged out if like everybody did this. Have like after you did this, did your mind shift a little bit? Because me witnessing this all go down, it like shifted my mind. Like honestly, when I saw that like everything you were doing and the amount of traction that it got, it like made me decide that I'm gonna do something. And like we've been like amongst us, we've been like formulating some ideas, because we want it to be as legit and like significant as possible. But honestly, like seeing you do your thing, it planted the seed in my mind, because I'm like, yo, it's like a cell phone. Like we could do this. Like if you just put in the energy and put in the work towards it and put your mind to this, like you could do some ill shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess it shifted slightly. Like, a lot of people were hitting me up to do, the similar thing in different areas of the city. So I'm like, oh wow, like now I'm like a spokesperson of like what my friends and I do, and like also like like I'm considered like this like leader figure. So it's like, but really I just wanted to be an activist, like with my friends and I, and obviously everything that we did, like if we did make a decision, it was collectively. So, like, and that's how we're trying to keep it. We're trying to keep it like a really tight ship, as far as like making sure like we stay on the right track and everyone's satisfied, because again, we're not paying anyone to do this. This is everyone who wants, everyone is just showing, like I was saying earlier, everyone is just showing their good intentions and true colors by wanting to be a part of it, which is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, you know, like, and it did shift my mind a little bit because, you know, I'd be walking down the street and someone's like, yo, you're the sidewalk sale guy. And I'm like, what? Yeah. Like, you know, like waiting for like a burrito at a food truck. Like, and I'm just like, wow, that's crazy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what's your name? How you doing? So it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, like I guess I'm this like community leader. And, you know, then like you're trying to think of like ways to just keep active and like, just stay on track. And like, you know, like I would like to do these sales again. And like, I'm always thinking about it. And I'm like, okay, like, so like, what else can we focus on? Like, what else can we do like in these communities in New York that like really need help, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, um, how do you think that the state of things are in New York right now? Because on the one hand, in the world, you see a lot of racism, a lot of division amongst everybody, a lot of hatred and lack of acceptance for other people's beliefs. Everyone thinking that they're on the right side, truly believing in what they believe in, and it just causes this ill divide. And then on the other hand, you have people coming together, people raising a bunch of money, people like the park just crowding with people because they want to give money to a righteous cause. But these are all like not the same people, but essentially like the same. They're living amongst the same community. So how do you see the state of things right now in New York in particular?
Well, I mean, I think like the whole George Floyd thing is kind of a blessing, because I mean, obviously the results are very tragic, but the impacts worldwide of seeing how many people started doing this, it's emotional. Like the first big Black Lives Matter protest that I went to, like seeing how many people showed up to rally in the streets against police brutality, and like me turning around and looking back and like I'm like, damn, like people are doing this for me, like I'm black, like, so that was emotional, you know. It was also a blessing in disguise because the pressure is just so on, like people were just getting so frustrated on both sides, and they just started exposing themselves. Like I was living in Greenpoint during the summer, and that's like a predominantly Polish neighborhood, and like people really started exposing themselves as like closet racists. So like that was like, and I would tell people, I'm like, that's actually the tight thing about this shit, because like now you know like who really is what. So it's like that's the blessing of this. And as far as New York, like this is the best city in the fucking world. Like I mean, I'm not from here, but like this city has been through hell and back. So it's like, you know, it was bankrupt. It was fucking 9/11 happened. It's gone through some shit, and people always pull through. So like, you know, like if anything's gonna spark off and come back and like rise as a unit, like this is the place to be.
Mm-hmm.
So people are just really showing that in New York City. Like it's cool, you know. Like
Yeah.
I think New York is just like always just gonna shine because of that, you know.
It seems like you have a lot of passion and pride and respect for New York as a city.
Yeah,
Where
big
does this
time.
where does this come from? Like, how has your experience been living here that it's made you think all of these things? Because some people we talk to just in everyday life and on the show, their experience might be a little bit different because it's easy to not see the treasure that's in front of you when you're so accustomed to it if you've lived here your whole life, or if like all you see is like mad people, we're packed in, commute to work, rent is extremely high, everything's forever far away, blah 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 blah. But then when people like you, or like in particular I can think of like Fernando Lyons, talk about it, it's like the greatest experience ever.
I mean, the funny thing is like way back when I was graduating high school, like I got into school on the East Coast and I like didn't even want to go. And then like my dad is from New York, but I've never been here when I was a kid. And it wasn't until like 10 years ago I came out here like on a little skate trip, and it just all made sense. Like all of the chaos, like it's like jazz. Like there's jazz has no flow, but like it just finds itself, it's harmonized in some kind of way, like things are just put together. Like that's how New York is. And then I like started coming out here and like just meeting friends and really loving how the city was, and it just felt so relatable to like my personality. and myself, and I was like, this is what I want. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. And when I first came out here, it was hard. Like I had like, there was times where I would go to work and I had to like hop the turnstile to go to work because I had like only enough bread to like eat and probably get a pack of cigs. I'm like, I'm not gonna spend this on train fare. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it was like I definitely did go through a struggling point, which was like some of my favorite years, and like knowing that like I stuck with it and then found my niche. Like, that's just the beauty of the city, because like it's a tornado and a crazy storm, and then like if you can just sit it out and be patient and find your New York, it's like just beautiful. It's magic after that. So it's like it's the greatest city. I'm glad like I went through that like for the first like 2 years.
Well, you were working at Trader Joe's when you first came out here, right?
I was working at Trader Joe's, and then I was like, dude, I need a second job, and I was desperate. I was down to do anything. Like, I tried being a barback. Like, I was gonna work at Pies and Dies. Like, I literally just wanted a second job. You know, like, and I was like, this is New York, so like, even if you do work 2 jobs, you can still find time to do what you like. Like, you just gotta like be dedicated. So like, I was doing 2 jobs and still doing a lot of things that I wanted to do. I started working at Dimes in the city, and I was doing Trader Joe's and Dimes for a while. I was like juggling 2, and those are great times. Those are good times.
So now that you work at Supreme Brooklyn, how's that experience been? Like, I know that they don't get as much foot traffic as I was gonna say Lafayette, but it's Broadway, right? No. It's Bowery. Yeah.
Bowery.
I know they don't get as much foot traffic as that place does, but like your day-to-day life there, do you ever think back on like, yo, I was working at Trader Joe's and Dimes, like hopping the turnstile and just like, I don't know what your situation was when you moved out here, but like essentially like probably not the best case scenario, you know what I mean? And now you talk about how it's like you have an employer that really backs you, that really holds you down. Like it's like a dream for people to, it's like a skateboarder's fucking dream.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I was like broke, but I was living. Like, it was cool as fuck. Like, I just knew, you just knew where to go. And like, if I wanted cigs, like I would go all the way to Chinatown to buy $8 cigarettes. If I really, really wanted, and then, I mean, luckily for me, working at Trader Joe's, my crib was stacked of food. So I never went out with that. Like, I cooked every single meal. So I always had meals on deck. I always have food on deck. And then it was just like, and then, like the classic New York shit, like how many of your homies work at a bar? You drink for cheap and you tip them fat. So it's like, like all that was just easy to figure out. You just had to figure it out. And then I started working at Supreme, and, like not only was I in that situation, all of us that worked there, like we all Zoo, Ski, the whole staff, like we've all been through that shit. So we always talk about it. We're always like, damn, like those days back then, like those were fun times, but it was cool because it was fun because you were figuring it out and you were still having a good time. It was like, all right, like if I'm going to go to the city to party and I got $20, like that means 1 drink and possibly an Uber, or I just spend the whole 20 and then I just walk home. Like those are like things you had to think about when you were going out. Like, so it was like, that was fun, it was cool.
No, it sounds like it's a matter of mindset, because if you ask a regular person, well, most regular people that work 2 jobs, like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
They're like, I'm dreading this. This is the worst thing ever. I need to do this because I need to provide. I need to, like, make ends meet, So hearing you say that, like, you were having a good time doing that is pretty sick.
Yeah, when I worked at Trader Joe's, I never showed up in my, like, Trader Joe's uniform. I always showed up in, like, my regular clothes. And people were always like, why do you dress like that on your way to work? And I'm like, this is New York. Like, I can get a text midway through my shift and there's like a party going on. And I damn near don't want to show up in like my Trader Joe's t-shirt and Dickies. Like, I looked whack for always having a backpack on me, but like, fuck it. I'd rather have that than like, like, or like, there could be, like, that's the cool thing about the city. Something always is going on. And like, if you want to do it, like it's, so like people are like, oh, right, I hear you, respect. Yeah, I get that. All right. So,
it's like Angel was saying earlier. You just got to make the best of your situation.
Yeah.
So it's just been like an amazing experience for you, essentially.
I mean, I haven't had any complaints.
You don't have any plans on ever moving?
I mean, I do, but like it's for family reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's personal stuff, like family business,
Yeah.
barbecue business. You know, I plan on going back and like, you know, taking that over. But I mean, it's New York over LA like all the time.
You ever miss it?
Yeah, I mean, I miss it. Like, I miss my family. I miss my friends. You know, like I like going out there, but like day 5, I'm fucking over it. You know, it's
Because
like,
the life in anywhere else that isn't here is so different.
yeah, I mean, when you have a routine here, you're set for life. I mean, if you talk to like, one thing I've noticed is if you talk to any New Yorker or anyone that has lived in New York for like 3+ years and they go on vacation, you're like, how was it? And they're like, oh my God, it was so great. And then they're like, but I was ready to get back to New York. Like, everyone says that. Like, I shit you not, like, I haven't heard a single person. I mean, there are people that are like, yeah, you know, like, this is it. Like, I'm thinking I got to leave the city. But, like, majority of the people that go on vacation, they're like, oh, yeah, like, it was so nice. I did this, I did that. Like, you know, like, I ate pasta in the countryside and, like, we rode on goats or something. And they're like, but I was ready to get back to New York. And it's like, yeah, you're, like, ready to get back to, like, honking, like easy access to like a fucking iced coffee, like, you know, like just like loud noise and like just a grimy looking city. Like but it makes sense because this is like paradise.
Yo,
for some
it
reason.
is. Yo, everything you're saying is reminding me of my mom because, like, my mom's from Ecuador, and I remember she would watch all these movies of America, and in Ecuador, like, America's like the grass in front of the house with the backyard and the
White
yellow
fence.
school bus. They didn't have yellow school bus over there.
Yeah.
And she told me, like, so she immigrated here and they got to Jackson Heights, and it was like right under the 7, and it was like, it looked like hell. Like, to her, it looked like hell. And then it's like these people like real deal, like on some like don't know anything about like that other side of New York, about like its creative history or anything. They just know like American thing or whatever, American paradise that they have. They get here, they might not see that under the 7 line shit is cool. They're like, this is actually, like you said, mad grimy. It looks grimy.
Yeah.
And you telling me like you would hop the turnstile and like do all these things, like you'd go to like near labor to get a pack of cigarettes for the low, or you'd like calculate your money. And like my mom used to straight up walk to work, and it would take her like 2 hours instead of hopping the train, because in her mind, like, if she hops the train, she's going to get arrested immediately. And the train back then was like, I don't even know, $1, probably 75 cents. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people have this like common thread, the people who have lived here or live here, where there is an intense period of like, this is like grind time right now. Like, I'm doing stuff that if I were to just live like in Connecticut, I would be chilling. Like, I'd probably have a car, a house with a backyard and a basement, and I would like drive to work, get there in 5 minutes. And makes me question, like, what is it that makes someone like this place as opposed to not? Because I've met people who have moved here, and then they're like, yo, this is whack. This is so whack. Like, yo, it takes me an hour to get to work. This is whack. I'm out. And then there's some people, for example, you come here and you make the most of it, and you love it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think it's just, it depends on your perception. Like, I got offered to work at Supreme LA, and like, you know, the homies were like, yo, we got to get you in here. We got to get you in here. Like, you should do it. And I could have done that. I could have stayed in LA. I could have had like a very comfortable life. I would have like drove to work, like had a house in LA, like did my thing. And I was just like, I don't want that. Like, I want to put myself in a different situation. And, you know, moving here and becoming like a pretty heavy, like by foot commuter kind of guy, you know, like I used to walk from basically McGolrick Park to Dimes to go to work. Like, why? Because it was cool. Like, I loved always seeing someone on the Williamsburg Bridge. Like, you never knew who you were going to see. You're just in the mix, like not like in the actual mix, but like you're just in New York City maneuvering around to get to work, you know, like throw your headphones on, listen to a podcast, your favorite album, call it a day, like smoke a J on the way back. Like, it was just really, I would rather just do that, you know, like I'd rather do that than sit in a car. Mm-hmm. Like, the fact that it was an hour walk, I didn't mind, because I'm like, the way my perception works is like, it actually is an hour, but like, if you're walking around New York City and you're looking around and you're seeing all this shit, it feels like it's 15 minutes, you know, like it. That's why this place is the best place ever.
It's like as you're walking, you're not just walking. You're essentially literally living.
Yeah.
Like you're living your life in that walk. You're experiencing.
You can
things.
get like some kind of inspiration via fashion or whatever, like on foot in New York City. Like, you know, you could probably take the best photograph of your life, like walking on the streets, you know, like that's like what makes this place so cool. It's because people stay on the streets. There's so much culture like on the streets or on a train or like in a subway station. Like that's the best part about this place, you know.
Do you still have that awe? It's almost like, it seems like a, I'm not saying that it is, but it seems like something that people would experience when they get here, and then it might fade as the years go on, like kind of like a honeymoon stage kind of thing. Do you still feel that as you walk around, like deep appreciation?
Yeah, I had it like months back. I like left the shop to go drop my bike off, and I like saw the M train like crossing over like from like the Monument skate spot.
Yeah.
And I like kind of like froze and like had like a white flash moment. I was like, whoa, I live in New York City. Like saying that is cool, you know, like even when I'm back home, like people take you different. They take you a lot differently when you say that. Like if I'm at a bar or somewhere in Los Angeles and people are like, where do you live? And I'm like, oh, I live in New York. And they're like focus switches. They're like, whoa, what? Really? Like, what's it like? Is it cold? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, like people look at you, they take you like, it's like, it goes from like here to here. So yeah, I still have those moments like where I'm like, damn, I live in New York. But I mean, now I'm like a little more tucked away in Brooklyn, and I'm like, Brooklyn is like the ultimate borough for me, you know? But I love it. Like, I love it. Like, I just love having a routine here in New York. It makes me, I'm not like sick of it. And if I'm sick of it, I leave, and then I want to come back. So it's like, it's just as easy as that.
For the winters, because in LA they don't have rough winters like they do out here. Because I know you moved out here in the middle of a winter.
No, I moved in the summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was gonna move in the winter.
Okay.
My plan was to move in the winter because I was coming out here so often that hearing friends talk, I knew that like places were available in the winter. So my idea, I was gonna move in like just January. I was like thinking just move in January. I can find a spot. But I was like, I'll just look on Craigslist and find a random spot, save bread, move out, like, and then just move in with the homies or whatever, whenever it's available. And then the spot that I moved into, my boys called me and they're like, we have a room available for you. So, but they're like, it's going to be August 1st. So that shifted. So I moved out to New York August 1st. And then like in July, James from Labor actually called me. He was like, yo, I heard you're moving out here. Because I met James when he first opened Labor. And he was trying to get me a job as like a 5-borough rep, but I just didn't have a car. So yeah, like, you know, it was cool. Like people were already like looking out for me little by little when I moved out here. But yeah, I moved out here in August. Yeah.
That's what's up, man. And you've just been killing it and enjoying it ever since, bro. I got a lot of respect for what you did.
Thanks.
With the whole, honestly, man, I'm not even just bullshitting you because you're here. Like I said, like everybody listen to this, keep your eyes open because we're gonna do some fucked shit. Like we're gonna do some like change ill shit. It's gonna be sick, man. And you planted the seed to that, and I hope that other people can see the actions of people like you who are just making shit happen, bro. Like you don't have to be a fucking superhero. It's just an ordinary person that people are down to support things like this. Everyone who bought something, not just because it's fresh, but because, you know, they want to support the movement, it means that that's something that they support. So why not just use, like I said, your potential and just do something even bigger? Because you could, you know?
Yeah, no, it's cool. It was just really cool. Like, just a lot of young creatives here in New York that made things on their own that would bring their own physical inventory and put them on a table and like just be like, damn, like someone made pickles. This dude who makes pickles, like he does like all these different kind of pickles. Like he hit me up to fucking participate. Like Danny Castaneda wanted to sell his nut butter. Like Adam Becerra, like, you know, gave me his zines and shirts. And just so many people like would bring their own stuff, and it's cool because like you're putting your stuff out there as well, like, but also you're like just being like, can I just give you this to like donate? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, yeah, like it was just cool, like all these people just coming together, all these creatives, and like just putting their shit together to like help out. You know, like it couldn't have been done without all those people who contributed.
There truly is so much talent in the cut. You know, people are truly so creative.
Yeah.
Because we think that, oh, it's just about work and, you know, that's all it is. But, you know, people, they shouldn't shy away. You know, if you're creating something with your own hands, why not express it? You know, why keep that to yourself? You know, I know a few people that they design amazing, like, handmade jewelry or, like, amazing clothing. And it's like, and they don't really show no one. It's just like they just show their little group of friends. It's like, why not express it out to the world? Why not, you know, go onto the sidewalk and pull up a table and make it happen, you know?
Yeah, like my friend, so many friends. One of my friends, Liz Delaney, she makes like she's been making like killer ass bags, and she like is kind of like new in New York. I think she's been here for like maybe like a year tops, maybe like a year, almost 2 years now. I don't really know. But I was like, yo, Liz, you have to have a table. Like, your shit is so sick. I mean, now she makes, like, masks and bags, but, like, her shit sold out. And she was hyped. She was like, fuck, like, you know, like, I didn't think I was going to sell these bags. And I was like, hell yeah, you're going to sell these bags. Your shit's cool. Like, my friend Leland, she's the one who did those, like, solidarity tees. She was hesitant on even doing the shirt. Like, she was like, I want to make a T-shirt, but I don't really know how people are going to feel about it. And then I was like, let me see it. And she showed me the graphic, and I was like, this is fucking amazing. Like, make this into a shirt. She's like, really? I was like, yeah. She's like, should I tie dye? I'm like, yeah. That shirt, like, literally, like, every sale she made over 2K. Like, it was insane, you know? She was just constantly selling. It was insane. Like, so yeah, like there's just so many fucking creative people in the city. That's why this place also rolls.
Yeah, you've said before, New York City's main ingredient is community.
Yeah.
We can't break away from that. We got to stick together.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely true.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, for sure.
I really appreciate it. Yo, if you wanna give any shout outs,
thank you, man.
Anything that you're up to now, or like how your life is like now, or anything like that, feel free.
Shout out to everyone involved, and shout out to everyone listening and tuning in. And life is lovely.
Peace.